Hi everyone, I'm Shelly and you're watching There's No Place Like Home. I'm back with another homeschooling video today, and I wanted to share with you why you need to stop letting your state requirements stifle your homeschool. When it comes to homeschool regulations, I live in one of the most highly regulated states in the country. So if you do live in one of those no regulation or low regulation states, I want to say to you, count your blessings. On the opposite end, though, I want to say that if you do live in a highly regulated state like I do, you don't need to be as concerned about it as you think you do. I have been homeschooling for 15 years, and I know how scary it can be when you have all of these regulations and requirements coming at you for things that you have to do in your homeschool. But the fact of the matter is that if you actually read what the law says, we have a lot of leeway in how we do things in our homeschools. And I think that we as parents need to step away from the school model, and we need to stop worrying about checking boxes, because I'm going to tell you what, that will really put a damper on your homeschool. I know, because I did this at first. I was so strict with making sure that all of the boxes were checked, and I was writing out so many, what are they called? Records. Yeah, that shows how long it's been. Anyway, I used to write out so many records every single night, checking off every single subject, that every single activity that we did, whether we did it in a structured homeschool activity or whether they just did it on their own. I wrote it down. I checked it off for what subject it went under, and I drove myself crazy to the point of actually burning out and sending my children back to school for 2 years, which honestly, I never should have done, but in hindsight, I know that that has helped me to help others. So in a way, I'm kind of glad that I did it. But what I'm seeing is that there are even still a lot of veteran homeschooling parents who are still so stuck on checking off those boxes for the homeschooling requirements. And I want to just kind of give you a breath of fresh air, hopefully today, or at least take some weight off of your shoulders when it comes to this. Let me tell you this very, very simply. Your subject requirements will get covered whether you try to or not. I know that sounds crazy, but it is absolutely true. The longer that you homeschool and the more you break away from the school model, the easier it is for you to see that learning happens everywhere. And just as we in life don't break up our day into subjects, learning doesn't need to be broken up into subjects either, because most topics are all encompassing and will really take in facets of every single subject that you are required to teach. So when you have topics, that you have to cover, like English and math and history and social studies and science and art, you can do these things in everyday life and not even realize it, because you're not in the school mindset when you are doing these things. So when you say that you are doing this really awesome homeschooling activity with your children and they really want to run with it, and it's something that they want to do for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I haven't covered Pennsylvania state history yet this year. Well, what should you do? Should you stop doing what your children are really loving doing so that you can fit in that Pennsylvania state history? Or should you just keep going and don't worry about it? And I'm going to tell you the latter. Don't worry about it. And this is something that I'm really passionate about because, again, I saw what had happened to my own homeschool. And I'm just going to give you some examples of this right now. So some of the other subjects that we are required to teach in our homeschools in Pennsylvania are continuous instruction in fire prevention and safety. And we are also supposed to teach our children Pennsylvania history. So if you teach Pennsylvania history as its own subject each and every year, that can get to be extremely monotonous, especially if you are looking at it like, okay, well, William Penn founded Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania actually means Penn's Woods. And if you learn that every single year alongside your children, yeah, it's going to get pretty boring, and your children aren't going to have any interest in your state history at all. But what if I were to tell you that you don't have to approach your state history, for example, in a schoolish way? Think about it. How often do you talk about the things going on in your community? How often do you talk about the things going on in your local news, in your state? That is state history. You could have a conversation with an older child about something that you've learned about on the news, and if it includes your state history, no matter where it's from, that is state history. We need to stop thinking of all of our subjects in the way that they would be taught in school, because state history really can include any part of state history. It doesn't even say exactly what needs to be taught in state history. It just says state history. That gives you a lot of leeway in how to approach this. So, for example, my children and I have been learning about the borough that we live in a community unit study, and we've been having such an awesome time. And yesterday we actually visited the municipal building. We got a tour of the municipal building. They showed us the council chambers. They showed us the conference room where they will make some confidential decisions, the ones that are not, covered by the Sunshine Act. And my daughter got to like bang the gavel as the council president. And yeah, I even got to ask them where we can find maps of the bedbug cave mining tunnels, because that's where my mind usually is. And yeah, I have to say that the one giving us the tour was actually pretty excited about that. And he finds bedbug cave pretty awesome. And he's like, hey, you can go on YouTube and you can find people that have taken tours through bedbug cave. And I'm like, trust me, been there, done that. I've already watched those videos. And yeah, it's all super interesting. So all of these things in the municipal building, they not only covered our local history, our local civics, but they also included our state history, because guess what? Our borough is in the state. While we were there, the chief of police came into the council chambers as we were having our tour, and he was just standing there, and he just, had, introduced himself and just gave some comments. But I thought that maybe he was standing there waiting to talk to the man who gave us the tour, and he was just waiting for us to leave. But as we were getting ready to leave, they said, no, your tour's not done yet. The chief of police said, I came here actually because I'm going to give all of you a tour of the police station, which really floored me, because when I called about the tour of the municipal building, I was told that I probably would not be able to get a tour of the police station. So yeah, so we got to go down there. My children got to see all the areas of the police station. They actually got to go inside the holding cell, sit in the police car, and he talked to them about safety and what to do about if you come across like downed electrical wires and things that we don't happen to think about very often. And guess what? Right there, we've covered safety. So on top of this, as we're learning about our community, I decided that I was going to arrange a tour of the fire department. And I didn't even realize that it's Fire Prevention Month, so that went really well. But yeah, now next week we are going to visit the fire department. Not because it says on a piece of paper in the state regulations that we have to cover fire prevention. It's because it was part of something else that we were learning, because learning is a holistic endeavor. It's not something that you have to break apart into little pieces. So yes, we're going to be learning that fire prevention, but it's going to matter in a different way because it's coming together as a whole. And this is why it's so important to not worry about breaking everything into tiny little subjects, because I guarantee you are going to cover every single one of those subjects, whether you want to or whether you don't. That's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like to hear more of what I have to say, I would love if you would do that. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave one either here or over on Instagram. And if you like my work and would like to check out my Patreon page, I will leave a link in the description box for that as well. And I hope you have a great day.